just as it disappeared without any fanfare earlier this year. Jimmy Fallon's long-running Tonight Show segment Thank You Notes quietly returned Thursday night without any acknowledgement of its absence. The once-weekly feature, in which Fallon writes tongue-in-cheek notes of gratitude to everything from pop culture trends to inanimate objects, had been missing since March 20th, 2025. The return on October 23rd picked up right where it left off, complete with the familiar piano cue from The Roots' James Poyser. Thank You Notes was a signature bit on both Late Night with Jimmy Fallon and The Tonight Show, starring Jimmy Fallon, typically airing on Fridays to close the week. It even spawned a pair of books, Thank You Notes 2011 and Thank You Notes 2 2012, but it became a less frequent feature when the show stopped producing new Friday night episodes in 2024. Before disappearing completely this past spring, Fallon isn't the first late-night host to put a popular recurring segment on ice. Jimmy Kimmel hasn't performed mean tweets since 2022. Seth Meyers hasn't revisited Second Chance Theater in over a year, and even David Letterman phased out viewer mail toward the end of his CBS run. Fans on X quickly noted the segment's return. One viewer posted, "OMG, Jimmy is actually doing Thank You Notes." Another joked, "Jim's been behind on Thank You Notes for a while." And one summed it up simply, "I'm so happy Thank You Notes are back." Hashtags, another once ubiquitous Fallon comedy segment, returned to the fold last month after a 14-month hiatus. Fallon has performed it 4 times since, in the ever-evolving landscape of late-night television, where the clamor for viral moments and political satire often dominates the headlines. The quiet return of a cherished comedy bit can feel like a warm embrace from an old friend. In a move that mirrored its unceremonious disappearance, Jimmy Fallon's long-running and beloved Thank You Notes segment returned to The Tonight Show on Thursday, October 23rd, without a single word of explanation or acknowledgement of its 7-month absence, sending a wave of nostalgic delight through its dedicated fan base. The segment, a once-weekly staple that traditionally closed the show's Friday night broadcasts, simply picked up right where it left off, as the familiar, gentle piano cue from The Roots musical director James Poyser filled the studio. Fallon approached his desk, armed with a fresh stack of index cards and a Sharpie marker, ready to resume his trademark ritual of writing tongue-in-cheek notes of gratitude. The audience's roaring applause at the sight of the setup was the only confirmation needed that this was a moment they had been waiting for. Thank You Notes had been a signature piece of Fallon's comedic repertoire since his late-night days, a fixture that seamlessly transitioned with him to The Tonight Show in 2014. The formula is deceptively simple. With Poyser's soulful piano chords setting a faux sincere mood, Fallon scribbles out notes of thanks to a wildly eclectic mix of recipients, from pop culture phenomena and baffling trends to inanimate objects and everyday annoyances. The humor lies in the clever wordplay, the absurd premises, and Fallon's own barely contained laughter, which often bubbles over as he reads his own creations. Its absence, however, had not gone unnoticed. The segment last aired on March 20th, 2025, and its subsequent vanishing act became a quiet point of contention and curiosity among the show's most loyal viewers. Its decline in frequency began when The Tonight Show ceased producing new Friday episodes in 2024, stripping Thank You Notes of its traditional weekly home. Its complete disappearance this past spring led many to fear the worst, that the segment, like so many bits before it, had been quietly retired. The October 23rd edition proved those fears unfounded. Fallon dove back into the format with gusto, offering his signature brand of grateful sarcasm. While the specific topics of the night are sure to be analyzed by fans, the mere act of their delivery was the real story. The return was immediately celebrated on social media platform X, where fans erupted with joy. One viewer captured the collective surprise, posting, "OMG, Jimmy is actually doing Thank You Notes." Another offered a witty in-universe explanation, joking, "Jim's been behind on Thank You Notes for a while." The sentiment was perfectly summarized by a third fan who simply stated, "I'm so happy Thank You Notes are back." This strategic revival of Thank You Notes appears to be part of a broader, deliberate effort by The Tonight Show to reconnect with its core comedic identity by bringing back foundational segments. Just last month, another once ubiquitous Fallon bit, Hashtags, returned after a 14-month hiatus. That segment, which invites viewers to contribute to a themed hashtag conversation online, has already been performed 4 times since its return, signaling a committed reinvestment in the interactive. audience-driven comedy that helped build Fallon's late-night empire in the first place. Industry observers note that Fallon is far from the first late-night host to bench a popular recurring segment, only to leave fans wondering about its fate. Jimmy Kimmel's uproarious Mean Tweets segment, a crossover hit featuring celebrities reading cruel comments about themselves, hasn't been performed since 2022. Over at NBC's Late Night, Seth Meyers hasn't revisited the archival clip comedy of Second Chance Theater in over a year. Even the legendary David Letterman gradually phased out his iconic viewer mail segment toward the end of his historic run on CBS. The decision to bring a segment back, therefore, carries weight. It's a nod to the longtime viewers, an acknowledgement that the show's history matters. In an era where late-night shows are often judged by their viral clips and political monologues, the return of a purely silly, character-driven bit like thank you notes serves as a reminder of Fallon's specific comedic strengths: joy, whimsy, and a shared, lighthearted experience with the audience. The segment's legacy extends beyond the screen, having spawned a pair of best-selling books, Thank You Notes in 2011 and Thank You Notes 2 in 2012, which captured the bit's unique charm in print form. Its return now feels like a reclamation of a valuable piece of late-night real estate, a space not for hot takes, but for cool, clever, and consistently funny observations on the weirdness of modern life. By offering no explanation for its absence or its return, The Tonight Show allowed the comedy to speak for itself. The message was clear. The thank you notes were simply overdue, not over. And for fans who have spent months missing that familiar piano melody and the sight of Jimmy Fallon trying not to crack up at his own jokes, that was more than enough. The notes are back, and for a grateful audience, that's precisely what needed to be said. And the high stakes, perpetually shifting world of late-night television, where shows are often measured by their viral clip potential and razor-edged political commentary. The most powerful statement can sometimes be a whisper, not a shout. That theory was put to the test on the evening of Thursday, October 23rd, when, without preamble, fanfare, or even a passing mention from its host, Jimmy Fallon's long-dormant thank you notes segment simply reappeared on The Tonight Show. Like a friend who slipped out of a party unnoticed only to return with more ice, it acted as if it had never left, and in doing so, created a moment of pure, unadulterated fan service that resonated far beyond the studio walls. The segment, a once-weekly ritual that had been a cornerstone of Fallon's comedic identity for over a decade, vanished from the airwaves after its March 20th, 2025 broadcast. For 7 months, its absence was a silent void in the show's rhythm, a question mark hanging over Friday viewing habits that had been established since his late-night days. Its return was executed with the same understated elegance that defines the bit itself. As the first unmistakable piano chords from The Roots' legendary musical director James Poyser echoed through the studio, a wave of anticipatory laughter and applause began to build. Fallon, a stack of crisp index cards and a trusted Sharpie in hand, approached his desk with a familiar glint in his eye. The camera closed in. The audience leaned in. And just like that, Thank You Notes was back.